Welcome to The Storyline, where the news becomes the story. I'm Midori Tachibana. Our storylines this week. It's a double Duterte shakedown, as both former President Rodrigo Duterte and his daughter Sara are soon to face trials for their crimes against humanity and betrayal of public trust. How will the downfall continue? Panic now in the cruise of nightmares after the hantavirus outbreak kills free. How fatal can this virus become? On today's tag, we look back on Ted Turner's legacy of pioneering the 24/7 news format. The Many Hats Turner Award coming up. On our writer's notes, the Peanut Gallery Media Network is turning into a prison gallery following the arrest of its founder, Franco Mabanta, over alleged extortion of a public official. Present standbys Paolo, Barcelon, and Garma are back on the program. The storyline starts right now. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Breaking news here on the storyline. Breaking news here on the storyline. The long arm of the law may soon catch up with Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, as multiple news organizations have reported that a warrant of arrest has been issued against de la Rosa, who served as chief of the Philippine National Police at the height of the Duterte administration's drug war. De la Rosa, who served as PNP chief from 2016 to 2018, has been named one of the co-accused in Duterte's crimes against humanity case. The rogue senator has been hiding since November 2025, in part due to the issuance of the warrant, while the Justice Department and the DILG are saying no such warrant has been received by both agencies. This is a developing story, and we will keep you updated as soon as more information is made available. The Dutertes have been struggling lately in their quest to reclaim power. With the former president's father's fate now in the hands of the International Criminal Court trial chamber and his daughter on the brink of a second impeachment, what are they going to do to turn the tides in their favor? While Vice President Sara Duterte's quest to ascend to the highest position in the land to bring her father home come to fruition? Or are they going to have a hard time breathing? Let's break down our climax. Former President Rodrigo Duterte's lead counsel, Nicholas Kaufman, has backed out of the former president's upcoming trial in the International Criminal Court after his one-year contract expired on March 31. Kaufman filed his withdrawal as counsel on May 8, with his replacement set to take over immediately. Assistant counsel Dov Jacobs also turned in his resignation the day before. The former president wanted to reorganize his defense team for the upcoming trial. The new lawyer, whose identity has been redacted, will represent the former president in the status conference on May 27, where the dates for the Duterte's trial will be decided upon, including submission of supplementary evidence and witnesses, as well as additional procedures to be followed during this period. Previously, the International Criminal Court voted to confirm all three charges of his crimes against humanity. This involves the periods from when he was Davao City Mayor until his presidency, including the police operations during the former president's campaign against illegal drugs. These hearings were the first time the world heard of the atrocities of the Duterte regime during the height of its anti-illegal drugs campaign in excruciating detail, including anecdotes from Guien, past public speeches, and news clippings presented by the prosecution. The prosecution and victim representatives expressed their desire to keep the former president in ICC detention. Prosecutors say Duterte has been uncooperative during the proceedings, quoting his claims of kidnapping and being quote-unquote forcibly pushed into a jet and renditioned to The Hague. The victims, meanwhile, have stated their concerns of pressure and intimidation from the former president's rabid supporters. His interim release has been rejected twice by the appeals chamber. The ICC has since picked 3 judges to examine the case against Duterte in Trial Chamber 3. Judge Joanna Corder of the United Kingdom, Judge Kibong Pek of South Korea, and Judge Nicolas Guillot of France. They will now decide whether to keep Duterte under their custody or let him out for a while. Duterte will appear on the trial as required by the Rome Statute. Over here, his daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte, is now awaiting her fate at the House of Representatives after their justice panel submitted the articles of impeachment to the plenary. The decision was unanimous, with all 55 committee members present supporting the report, including deputy speakers, majority and minority leaders, and lawmakers deputized by the Rules Committee. This comes after they determined probable cause on the existing impeachment complaints in a unanimous vote. "215 lawmakers are set to back the ouster come Monday,
lahat,
with no signs
Martin Romualdez, Lisa Marcos, Bongbong Marcos. Huwag ka mag-alala, ma'am, sa security ko. Kasi may kinausap na ako na tao. Sinabi ko sa kanya, kapag pinatay ako, patayin mo si BBM, si Lisa Araneta, at si Martin Romualdez. No joke. No joke. Nagbilin na ako, ma'am. Pag namatay ako, sabi ko, huwag ka tumigil hanggang hindi mo mapatay sila. And then he said yes.
"215 lawmakers are set to back the ouster come Monday, with no signs of slowing down to hold the vice president accountable. Only a third of the House majority is needed to impeach the vice president, or 106 lawmakers. House Committee on Justice Chairperson Representative Jervy Luistro is scheduled to sponsor the committee report and the resolution setting forth the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte. After the voting on the committee report and the resolution setting forth the articles of impeachment, the House may elect the 11 impeachment prosecutors. The rules of impeachment state that the voting on a resolution with the articles of impeachment of the Committee on Justice or a contrary resolution dismissing the impeachment complaint shall be by roll call, and the Secretary General shall have a record of each member. In case there are no more votes or abstentions, House Senior Deputy Majority Leader Loven Defensor said it doesn't affect the validity or the approval of the articles of impeachment because the Constitution simply requires that at least 1/3 of all the members of the House of Representatives support the impeachment, regardless of how many will say no or how many will abstain. The House Committee on Justice examined evidence linked to allegations of the Vice President's misuse of confidential funds, unexplained wealth, and failure to disclose all assets in her statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, bribery of Department of Education officials, and threats against the President, First Lady, and former House Speaker. Welcome to our new segment called Monologue. For those who have been watching us since February, you are probably aware of a segment we used to do called Final Word, or Huling Salita in Filipino, during our broadcasts of Cool News Primetime. This segment was my idea to end the show with a commentary about the top story of the day, or something I personally wanted to cover from an editorial perspective. Now that we have this program, we decided to bring this concept back, but in a different form. As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But what will have a hard time to repair is the morality of the Filipino. All the stories that you heard and will be hearing of over the next few months will mostly have to do with the family hailing from Davao. It's yet another case of woe is me from the Dutertes, but a lack of accountability for their past grievances. A recent poll showed there is still some hope for the younger Duterte's quest to become the highest official in the land. Sara is still popular in the poorer regions of the country. They still believe in the strongman way of asserting power, of guns taking over, or red-tacking people who just genuinely want better for our society. Ika nga nila, maayos naman ang panahon niya. But that also doesn't mean no harm was done during the time of the older Duterte's administration, and now the younger's blatant disrespect for the Constitution and due process. What many others experience does not erase the pain of those whose loved ones' lives were taken unceremoniously in the middle of the night. There is a problem with our society failing to recognize the true meaning of power. Power should be exercised not to incite fear, but to excite people into doing good. To do good to other people through policies that benefit the ordinary citizen, provide them with a good quality of life, that's how one should assert their power. Public officials are not supposed to be bowed down upon. They are serving us, taxpayers. The millions of pesos of confidential funds, campaign money, and all that could have been used to build classrooms, hospitals, daycare centers, provided thousands of jobs, subsidies, housing, scholarships, all under the pockets of a single politician. Now they continue to disregard the legal process that is running after them and their desperation to hold on to their power. If the Dutertes cannot recognize the legal process of their respective jurisdictions, is it even worth the respect of the ordinary Filipino who follow everything the government says to the letter? One can only hope the upcoming trials knock some sense into our consciousness. Today's society has devolved into a soulless shell of its former self, still obsessed over those in power without any kind of discernment about their true intentions. We have failed to look beyond what our concrete eyes see. Most turn a blind eye to the atrocities that should have been morally upsetting to the average rational citizen. Now, people cannot disregard the rhetoric of the Dutertes that have seeped into the morality of the Filipino. How can you repair something that has forever tarnished our societal values? Do we really deserve better? When we return, the hantavirus outbreak inside a cruise ship has caused panic across the world. Is another pandemic in the horizon? That's coming up right here on the storyline.
来一份专属于我的甜蜜，煮了吗？这是 我特调的新鲜美味哦。
丽蕾心动冰沙，现做就是新鲜。
快 7-Eleven 和我一起享用吧。
有你 open， 生活有我 open。
내가 시원하게 말해줄게. 입자마자 차가워서 더위 순삭. 몸에 붙지 않으니까 시원한 바람이 왔다 갔다. 시원해서 소름. 시원해서 시원서커 K2.
하겐다츠 そのグリーンは上質の抹茶を惜しみなく。いざ解禁、いざグリーンティー、クリスピーサンドザ・グリーンティー抹茶。 1인 1메뉴만 하자며 밥 생각 없다며. 맞네.
그럼 마무리할까? 든든한 식사 후 가볍게 톡 털자. 마실수록 가벼워지는 희생 콤부차를 가볍게 한 번, 건강하게 두 번.
Welcome back to the storyline. The hantavirus is now taking over a cruise set to dock in Spain's Canary Islands. But its president expressed his dissent over a possible spread of the virus that saw infected cases leave the ship and into flights that have initiated contact with non-infected people. What is the hantavirus and how does it spread from person to person? Let's look at our first draft. The Andes virus strain of the hantavirus has struck the luxury vessel MV Hondius during an Atlantic expedition, resulting in at least 3 deaths and triggering a strict quarantine near the Canary Islands. The hantavirus is a family of viruses spread mainly on by rodents like mice and rats through their saliva, droppings, or urine. While it is rare, it can cause severe respiratory or kidney diseases in humans. The World Health Organization sounded the alarm due to the strain's capability of person-to-person transmission.
This is not coronavirus. This is a very different virus. We know this virus. Hantaviruses have been around for quite a while. There's a lot of detail that we know. I'm going to ask Anais to come in and say this, but I want to be unequivocal here. This is not SARS-CoV-2. This is not the start of a COVID pandemic. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship. There's a confined area. We have 5 confirmed cases so far. We completely understand why these questions are coming, and we are trying to provide all of the information that we can. That's why we're having a press conference here to give accurate information, and we're grateful for all of those out there who are asking these types of questions. But this is not the same situation we were in 6 years ago. It doesn't spread the same way like coronaviruses do. It's very different. It's that close, intimate contact that we've seen. And most hantaviruses don't transmit between people at all. Most hantaviruses are transmitted from rodents or their feces or their saliva or droppings to people. And only this one particular virus, the Andes virus, which has been identified here, we've seen some human-to-human transmission.
This is a serious incident. WHO assesses the public health risk as low. It also shows why the international health regulations exist and how they work. WHO is working with multiple governments and partners on the response under those regulations. Our priorities are to ensure the affected patients receive care, that the remaining passengers on the ship are kept safe and treated with dignity, and to prevent any further spread of the virus. On Monday, I asked Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez of Spain to accept the ship, which he agreed to do, and I thank Prime Minister Sanchez for his generosity, solidarity, and meeting his moral duty. The ship is now sailing for the Canary Islands, and we're confident in the capacity of Spain to manage this risk, and we're supporting them to do so.
The ship was on a 19-day Atlantic Odyssey voyage that began on April 1, 2026 in Ushuaia, Argentina. It was intended to be a bird-watching and nature cruise. As of this Thursday, there are 8 cases of the hantavirus linked to the Honduras outbreak. 3 casualties have been reported. A 70-year-old Dutch male that passed away on April 11, his 69-year-old wife, who also died in a hospital in Johannesburg, South Africa, after being evacuated from the ship on April 24, and a female German that died on board the vessel. Nearly 2 weeks after the first casualty on board, almost a half-dozen passengers from 12 different countries disembarked on the island of St. Helena without contact tracing. The distance of the cruise to the nearest land is approximately 1,300 kilometers. Meanwhile, all 38 Filipino crew members on board tested negative for the hantavirus and remain in good health while they wait for the ship to reach the Canary Islands for medical clearance. To better understand the gravity of this outbreak, we must examine what makes the Andes strain so dangerous compared to other viral threats. This phenomenon was first observed in southern Argentina in the mid-1990s, proving that the virus can be spread through close personal contact. On a cruise ship, this means cabin mates, healthcare workers in the infirmary, and anyone sharing confined spaces are at the highest risk of infection. Symptoms of the hantavirus often take weeks to materialize after initial exposure. Unlike the more common hantavirus strains found in North America or Asia, which strictly require contact with rodent waste, the Andes strain has a well-documented history of human-to-human transmission. However, the real danger sets in later during the respiratory phase. The infection can rapidly escalate to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a condition where the lungs rapidly fill with fluid. This explains the global alarm regarding the passengers who left the ship early. International health ministries working alongside the WHO and local governments are scrambling to locate the passengers who disembarked in St. Helena weeks ago. Because they hail from 12 different countries, multiple jurisdictions and border agencies are involved in an international tracing effort. Authorities are relying on flight manifests, customs data, and even credit card records to track their movements. The goal is to place these individuals under immediate medical surveillance and enforce strict isolation protocols. For those remaining on board, given the long incubation period, some of these passengers might be carrying the virus right now without showing a single symptom, unknowingly exposing their families and communities. For those remaining on board the MV Hondius, the living conditions have become increasingly grim. Passengers have been confined to their cabins for days to prevent any further mingling. Meals are being carefully dropped off outside their doors by crew members wearing heavy personal protective equipment. The psychological toll on passengers is growing by the hour. Many of them are in interior cabins without windows or balconies, with an internet access is reportedly limited.
We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home.
Furthermore, the ship's sick bay is overwhelmed as cruise ship medical centers lack the surplus ventilators and intensive care equipment required to treat multiple severe cases of pulmonary syndrome at once. Spain's Canary Islands are bracing for the ship's arrival this weekend, but the pushback from local authorities in Tenerife has been intense. The regional government has publicly expressed severe dissent, citing the immense risk to the island's local population and its heavy reliance on global tourism. However, international maritime law and humanitarian obligations dictate that they cannot simply turn a ship away when they will be permitted to leave freely. They are anxious, grieving the loss of fellow travelers and living in constant fear that they might be the next to develop symptoms. In response, Spanish health officials are setting up a high-security biocontainment perimeter at the port of Granadilla. Military personnel are currently erecting field hospitals equipped with negative pressure tents. When the ship finally docks this Sunday, the passengers will be screened one by hazmat teams. Those requiring critical care will be transported in specialized isolation ambulances to designated hospital wards. The remaining asymptomatic passengers will be escorted directly to secure military quarantine facilities on the island, where they will remain under observation for several weeks to ensure the virus does not enter the general population. Up next on the storyline, Ted Turner, who pioneered the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week format for a news channel, along with establishing beloved networks, funding sports teams, and championing the environment, has died at 87. We look back at the visionary's legacy when the storyline returns.
말해줄게. 입자마자 차가워서 더위 순삭. 몸에 붙지 않으니까 시원한 바람이 왔다 갔다. 시원해서 소름. 시원해서 시원사커 K2.
어떤 거 볼까?
눈물 펑펑 쏟는 거.
아니야, 도파민 팍팍 터지는 거.
그냥 우리 각자 보자.
나는 가볍게 푹 털자. 취향대로 마시는 16가지 콤보차로. 상큼하게 한 번, 건강하게 2번.
美味，我只瞄准这颗心。7-Eleven 星级响宴，和我一起特制的星级美味，意大利面又香又辣，好过瘾哦！哇，一个是我最爱的台韩味。这不只是甜品，更是精品，最极致的美味就在星级响宴。快来 7-Eleven 和我一起享用吧！有你 open， 生活有我 open。ルート設定完了。戦艦降下します。地図接近中。モンスターです。
汚染度が高すぎます。
ダメ。
カーストは死んだ。早く彼らの緊急機関を。これは想定外ですね。
また3人漆黒の中に刻まれる罪だってやろう。
今日はここ。
知りなさい。カオスゼロナイトメア。すべてのカオスをゼロに。 나만 힘들어? 죽을 것 같아. 지금 몇 세트지? 한 세트?
좀만 쉴까?
그럴까? 한 세트 끝내고 가볍게 톡 털자. 기분 좋게 상쾌한 바르탄산으로.
시원하게 한 번, 건강하게 두 번.
Welcome back to the storyline. On this week's tag, we commemorate the legacy of Ted Turner, who died this Wednesday at the age of 87. His passing was announced via cable news network widely known as CNN, the network he founded in 1980 to catch the news after work. Many luminaries paid respects to the famed pioneer, including former network presidents, anchors, key executives, and even his ex-wife, actress Jane Fonda. Who is the man behind all his many hats, and how did the mouth of the South transform these channels into a media empire? Turner was born on November 19, 1938. At 4 years old, he was sent to boarding school, which he didn't like. When he was 24, Turner started his media career when he took over his father's billboard company. He bought various radio stations, then hopped into television by 1970, acquiring a struggling station in Atlanta known as WJRJ Channel 17, changing its call sign to WTCG. He tried boosting the ratings by airing old sitcoms and classic films, and at some point, even hosting Academy Award theater himself. He then invested in sports by buying the Atlanta Braves Baseball Club, a team that eventually became known as America's Team. Viewers flew to the channel to tune into the Braves, and as Turner turned a profit, began setting his sights towards the television. In 1976, he aired on Channel 17 signal up to a satellite, reaching cable subscribers across the country. WTCG eventually became WTBS, America's first ever superstation. Turner also picked up the Atlanta Hawks basketball team, partly to keep the long-term rights to the TV programming, and partially because it was just plain fun. When the superstation WTBS became popular, he set up his sights higher, a 24-hour news channel. A lot of people thought Turner's idea was crazy, but he saw a huge opportunity in the marketplace for people who wanted to watch the news after the big free newscasts were off the air by 7 o'clock. Turner wanted to expand the aperture of television news, visualizing shows about business, health, sports, and other subject matter. The cable news network launched on June 1, 1980 as the first ever 24-hour news channel. The network's early years were marked by technical snafus during its long, extensive live broadcasting. Some critics called it as chicken noodle news. Yet Turner and his deputies knew they were making something revolutionary. In 1987, CNN's coverage of the rescue of then 18-month-old Jessica McClure in Midland, Texas, showed the world its reputation for starting a story and sticking with it. By 1991, the world felt the impact of the CNN effect by providing live coverage of the first Gulf War with veteran journalists Bernard Shaw and John Holloman annotating the opening salvo of Operation Desert Storm, and networks such as NBC, CBS, and ABC, all taking in CNN. The CNN effect became a government and military byword that defined the effect of live, uninterrupted news coverage on the way institutions made critical decisions. Ted Turner oversaw this operation from his office in Atlanta, never wanting to be away from his people and right at the heart of the action. Turner expanded, creating a second 24-hour news network, CNN2, which was later named Headline News, then HLN in 1982, and CNN International in 1985. In the mid-1980s, he acquired MGM's library of more than 4,000 old films, stirred up in controversy in the film community for coloring many black and white movies, including Casablanca. What Ted made happen was more important than the internet revolution, recalled by former Turner Broadcasting CEO Terry McGuirk. Turner was also responsible for the creation of World Championship Wrestling, or WCW, in 1988, after buying the assets of Jane Crockett Promotions and launching its programming on TBS. The company eventually became the biggest rival of what was then known as the World Wrestling Federation, and was a major player in the Monday Night Wars, where WCW and WWE battle for control of the audience shares, fan attendance, and impact on popular culture. Turner was named as a visionary and claimed the Time magazine's Man of the Year in 1991. In 1996, Turner sold his networks to Time Warner for nearly $7.5 billion. He stayed as a vice chairman at Time Warner, emphasizing the company's cable TV networks. Turner always had that philanthropic streak, but it started to move to the forefront in 1997, the year after selling Turner Broadcasting to Time Warner. That's when he engaged $1 billion to the United Nations. Making good on that pledge that took a while longer than he anticipated, he made his final payment to the UN in 2015, thanks to beating his fortune after the 2001 merger with AOL. Later in life, he dedicated part of his lands to preserving the bison, and also opening restaurants that allowed dinners to experience cuisine through his chain of Ted's Montana Grill restaurants. When it was all over, he was still a billionaire, but just barely. Half a century ago, his father's suicide thrust a $1 million billboard company into his hands. He would often mention that his father died at 54, which he ran out of fame to work toward. As a result, Turner was relentlessly driven to move forward, never looking back. Yet how successful he was, Turner would often still try to prove himself. Fonda recalled how she was filled in tears when Turner told her about his childhood on their second date. They were driving around in his 60,000-acre ranch in Montana, and he was passing the time, speaking as he drove. Tears ran down her face. The miracle is that he became what he is, a man who will go to heaven. There will be dozens of animals welcoming him, animals that have been brought back from the edge of extinction because of Ted. He's actually a good guy, and he says he is not religious. But the whole time I was with him, every speech, and he loved to give speeches, which he will always end with a God bless. And he'll get into heaven. He's a miracle. Up next on the storyline. Peanut Gallery Media Network founder Franco Mabanta is arrested along with 4 others over his alleged extortion of former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. What's the holdup over an expose his network was supposed to publish about the former speaker? The storyline coming up when we return.
Want to enhance your beauty? Every face tells a story. But sometimes we forget to listen. Because beauty isn't just how you look, it's how you feel when you show.
As a multi-talent, kailangan kong gawin ang ginagawa ko buong araw. Hanggang sa bahay, sobrang napapagod na ako. Pero buti na lang, meron pa rin ang sarap noodle Midori. Ang chewy ng noodle, nilagyan rin ng seasoning oil at fried onions para mas masarap. Sarap? Sarap noodle Midori, pasayahin ang araw mo.
Ang boring dito. Hanap na lang kaya ako ng maiinom.
Ang refreshing.
Refresh your day. Feel alive with Chaos Cola. Also available, Chaos Soda.
Woo! Ang boring dito. Hanap na lang kaya ako ng maiinom.
Ang refreshing.
Refresh your day. Feel alive with Chaos Cola. Also available, Chaos Soda.
Woo! 25 pesos lang. Sulit! Bin na!
Welcome back to the storyline. This week on our Writers Know. Franco Mabanta, the founder of Peanut Gallery of Media Network, an independent, was arrested with four convicted and trans Wednesday. The arrests follow allegations of extortion targeting former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. What's the holdup over an expose his network was supposed to publish about the former speaker? Press on standbys, Paolo, Barcelon, and Guien Garma are here to help us break down the chaos. Thank you so much for returning to our program. It's so nice to have you here again.
And thanks Mido for having the both of us. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Magandang hapon, Mido, Pao, at sa lahat ng ating mga taga-subaybay ngayong araw na ito.
Okay, let's get right to the chase. For those that do not really watch PGMN, Pao, can you explain to us what they do and what their contents are?
I think on the surface, and Prof. Guien will agree with me, no? Si PGMN is really comparable to an organization that is promoting commentary guised as journalism. Alam naman natin na in journalism, we are bound by rules, by a set of ethics, by a set of principles and newsroom style guides na kinakailangan ma-achieve ng mga journalists or ng mga reporters. And PGMN has been really leaning towards opinion punditry, similar to what we see on, let's say, Fox News or Newsmax or One America News Network in the United States, wherein they promote certain thoughts which are left unchecked. Siguro for a more academic perspective of what this is about, I think Guien will agree with me na hindi ito journalistic network per se or a journalism outlet per se, because at the end of the day, practicing journalists is the bread and butter of a newsroom. PGMN has pundits. It's like saying it's like plugging in a 110 volt appliance sa plug na 220 volts. So you know that both is compatible at doon maaring sumasabog. Prof. Guien.
Actually, very kind pa nga yung pagde-describe ni Pao about PGMN. Kasi kung tatanungin ninyo, para as an ordinary viewer, para ang PGMN ay, I'd describe it as if Fox News and Last Week Tonight or The Daily Show had a love child. Bakit? Kasi, kagaya na binanggit ni Pao kanina, it's more punditry, no? Kaya lang kasi, for example, with Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, for example, kung tatanungin niyo si John Oliver, sasabihin niya sa inyo na hindi siya journalist, pero yung proseso ng mga storya na ginagawa nila sa LWT, for example, humuhugot kasi din sila from actual journalism work from other journalists, and then ginagawa nila ng komedya or ng humor, no? And therein lies the difference between shows like The Daily Show or Last Week Tonight with PGMN. Si PGMN, malinaw na malinaw siya na punditry. Alam mo na yung mga nasa himpilang ito, so to speak, mga mga mas political commentators sila than journalists. Bakit? Kasi una sa lahat, kung titingnan mo din naman yung iba nilang most of their content, especially yung commentary content, hinuhugot din naman nila yung pinagkokomentaryohan nila from mainstream newsrooms So mas komentaryo talaga sila, except for instance, yung may mga pagkakataon na nagkakaroon sila ng ilang mga scoop, no? I remember may isang dito pa nga yung humantong na may isang politiko from Quezon City nakakasuhan ng PGMN kasi may mga expose nga daw itong himpilang ito. But again, even if may expose sila, alam mong punditry pa rin they're dealing with punditry. And marami na rin nagsabi, like Professor Danny Araw na nagsasabing, hindi sila journalism. And if you are a critical media viewer, you would know na kapag manonood ka ng PGMN, it's not journalism the way we know it, no? As old school journalists would do it. Mas talaga siya, mas komentaryo siya. It's more of a commentary arm than, a newsroom really.
Siguro to add briefly lang to what Prof. Guien was saying, it's really about kumbaga ang journalism outlets, whether TV, broadcast, radio or digital, they rely on reporters. They rely on facts. Na it takes a lot, It takes a lot for us journalists, myself and Guien and Mido included, na para maglabas ng isang storya, you have to have verification, confirmation, you have to have extensive sourcing. Kasi PGMN is trying to promote what I like to call personally the journalism of rage instead of the journalism of fact. Because journalism of fact is something na hindi mo pwedeng lagyan ng punditry, hindi mo pwedeng lagyan ng pagiging opinionated regardless of whatever personal or institutional biases an organization has. So I think na yung pinapalabas nila is gusto nilang magalit ka towards a certain person for doing something. And not just that, mabuti sana kung lang Prof. Guien and Mido they were just about attacking people. At the height of PGMN's rise, they thrived on promoting anti-vaccine theories. They're promoting, I would like to call it the way it is. It's bigotry. 'Di ba? They are promoting anti-LGBTQIA plus narratives. 'Di ba? Kumbaga para silang pag nanood ka ng mga komentaryo nila, it's really pandering to what we traditionally know as a conservative audience.
Yes.
People who are dismissive of vaccines, people who do not sit well comfortably with the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. But the irony is they pride themselves on being a voice for all political ideologies. Yet, kung titignan mo yung number of commentators nila, like Regal Oliva, Orion Perez Dumdum, CJ Hero, a lot of these are pro-Duterte commentators. Sino ang tanong dyan, sino ba yung mga liberal liberal commentators nila? Sino ba yung commentators nila who are pandering to the Marcos loyalists? So if they pride themselves on being a platform for free speech absolutism, why is there an institutional preference for voices that amplify former President Duterte? Kumbaga doon pa lang may kinikilingan at alam mong may pinoprotektahan na hindi mo alam kung ano ang ideological leaning nila from on the surface. Pero kung critical kang viewer, makikita mo that there is an obvious pattern towards the type of content that they're trying to publish.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to ask this specifically. Why was there a need to extort a former House Speaker para sa isang expose regarding his role in the flood control scandal? Was there a need to do that in the first place?
Actually, I'd like to preface my answer muna with, of course, we have to presume innocence sa lahat ng mga inaakusahan until proven otherwise, no? But nevertheless, pwede kasi nating dito pumapasok yung dito na natin pwedeng i-introduce yung konsepto ng ACDC. Ayan. So para sa mga kapakanan ng mga taga-subaybay natin na wala naman sa loob ng newsroom, no. Ano ba tong ACDC? Ito siya, it's a derogatory term, attack and collect, defend and collect. Strategy yan ng mga nasa larangan ng pamamahayag na halimbawa may dalawang magkaaway na partido A, Partido B, sasabihin ni journalist ni bayaran, quote-unquote bayaran journalist kay Partido A na, di ba kalaban mo tong si Partido B? Edi bayaran mo ako, aatakihin ko 'yon. Tapos yung modus operandi na 'yon gagawin din ni bayarang quote-unquote journalist kay person B. Kaya siya ACDC, attack and collect, defend and collect. Ganun na ganun yung kung mapatunayan na ito yung na extortion, no, itong ginawa ni na Mabanta sa sa panig ni Speaker Romualdez, what they did is, classic ACDC. Ngayon, as to the question of kinailangan ba na humantong sa ganitong punto, the only acceptable instances no para hindi mo ilabas ang isang storya ay either hindi ka pa kumpleto sa detalye or yung hindi mo pa nagawa ang lahat ng efforts para kunin ang kabilang panig dun sa storya. Weird din kasi sa statement no ng PGMN at sa statement ni Franco Mabanta na para bagang kung may mangyari sa akin, ang sinasabi ni Mabanta basically, kung may mangyari sa akin, saka nyo ilabas yung video. So pag halimbawa wala pang nangyari sa kanya, hindi pa lalabas yung storya. So mapapatanong ka dun no, na parang bakit mo pa siya kailangang i-hold off kung ganun na kayo ka-confident sa storya ninyo. And given na naaresto siya due to alleged extortion at may ganung angulo na so sa kanya lang ilalabas pag may nangyari, once you connect the dots, magtataka ka talaga.
At saka kumbaga, to add to Prof. Guien's point, no, if you're really saying that you are the fastest rising media network in the country, ang tanong dyan is, Was there a need for you to hold it? Sana kung February 21 pa lamang ay ready na yung video ninyo, inilabas yun na February 21 pa lamang. 'Di ba? Dapat ang tanong kasi diyan, pagka kung lumabas yung video na yan, ano yung laman nung expose na yan? And then you open another layer of questions. Did they file any freedom of information requests here? Sino yung reporter na gumawa nito? Anong klaseng journalism ethics yung in-apply sa paggawa ng storyang ito? Actually, this could have been the moment that PGMN could have taken pride in itself ba na, meron kaming journalistic integrity. Ito yung mga reporter namin. Aside from the hosts which they we deride na tinatawag silang anchor. Because when you say anchor, dapat uupo ka na may tiwala at may kredibilidad, 'di ba? Sabi nga ni Arnang paborito nating philosopher sa pagbabalita na si Arvin Malasa, meron kang kredibilidad. Sa pag-upo doon sa upuan na 'yon. But all jokes aside, this could have been a watershed moment for PGMNA. 'Di ba? Look at Assortage. Balikan natin yung kaso ng Assortage na sobrang daming nagka-clamor na maglabas. Sino ba kayo? Bakit ganito yung content nyo? Eventually, earlier this year, I think it's just a few weeks ago, Prof. Guien, they revealed the identities and the positions of who is running this particular outlet. Good for them. So now we know that Assortage is not just a rage bait page. They actually have like editors, they have like reporters, di ba? At saka, why is the style of PGMN leaning back towards panditry? Towards saying na, ganito is wrong based on my, kumbaga parang respect my Orion, respect my opinion. Di ba? Ganun yun eh. Parang, tama kami, ito yung opinion namin, bahala na kayong maniwala o hindi. So, to answer the question, was there a need to extort? No. They should have simply released it and let the public, the academe, both of us of which are part of, and the greater journalism circles to judge kung is this a work of journalism or is this the journalism of rage.
So, I want to go to Franco Mabanta himself because siya lang yung merong background in journalism, and even then sobrang limited ng expertise niya in the field. So ano yung pinaka key difference between actual practicing journalists and those independent content creators like Peanut Gallery Media Network?
I think if I can answer first, Prof. Guien,
Yeah.
Ang tanong gano'n na ba kalaki yung itinaya ng PGMN to call itself a media network even? Diba? Sa tinagal-tagal ko sa industriya na mahigit almost isang dekada combined, almost a decade, wala akong nakitang PGMN na nagko-cover ng rally, na nagko-cover ng bagyo, na nagko-cover ng mga demolition, mga crime story. Were they even present during the Duterte drug war? Obviously not, because they were not established by then.
By then, yeah.
Diba? Pero 2020, please correct me if I'm wrong, please fact check me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if they started in 2021 or 2022 or 2023 even. Okay. They could have easily handily covered the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. They could have easily done that. Pero bakit wala akong nakikitang PGMN sa kalsada? 'Di ba? Kung talagang journalistic outlet ka, bakit hindi ka nagko-cover ng House hearing, ng Senate, ng press con ng iba't ibang mga politiko, ng iba't ibang mga organisasyon, or mag-mount man lang ng elections coverage? 'Di ba? Walang ganun eh. There's no such thing as PGMN being present. You pride yourself in being a media network, the fastest rising, yet your presence is literally in a video. Your presence is literally in a studio with a solo cam or doon sa peanut butter na binibenta nila. Diba? So, hindi ko alam kung why are they now using And this is an irony, diba? A few years ago, I saw a legitimate journalist get arrested in front of my eyes. Okay? That journalist is named Rodriguez. I saw Maria get arrested for telling the truth na dinala siya sa NBI. The entire apparatus of the state brought upon her. And I saw I saw how harrowing that was, and I saw how that had a chilling effect on us journalists. Because Rappler was present. They were the only voice na talagang sobrang ballsy in covering the Duterte administration. And they had proof. Sabi nga ng isa pang philosopher natin sa news na si Kuyang Emil Sumangil, meron silang resibo ng lahat ng mga ginawa, lahat ng mga kontrobersya. They used every single tool in the journalism playbook to achieve what they want. Again, babalik ako sa terminolohiya na journalism of rage. Dahil ang gusto ng PGMN, magalit ka. Dahil ito yung opinion namin. Hindi journalism yon. And I think Prof. Guien will agree with me by saying na ano bang training ng mga anchor nito? Maliban kay CJ Hero na naging anchor sa isang religious station. Hindi ba, Prof. Guien?
Yeah. Yun nga kung ikaw ay nasa isang journalism school, you would know na journalists really have to, dig through paperwork or go to events to actually cover stories, no? Or sige, at the very least, halimbawa kung talagang short-staffed yung newsroom ninyo, rely on the press releases that are sent to you. But, kahit PR yan, hindi mo siya i-ere as it is. May proseso pa rin yan na pagdadaanan. So basically, ang pamamahayag, journalism is a process na talagang pagtutuunan mo siya ng panahon, pagtutuunan mo siya ng effort to get to the truth. It's not as simple as you sit in front of a desk at meron kang mikropono at magyayayaw-yaw ka doon. That's basically yapping. Or if you want to call it a more social term, broadcast parlance, that's commentary. Nasaan yung journalism doon, no? And ito pa pala, no? Kaya din among people in academia and of course people in journalism din, no, kalakhan ng mga nakikita kong discussions ay ang sinasabi, commentary naman talaga yan, hindi journalism. Hihiram lang ako ng ilang mga bahagi ng broadcast code ng kapisanan ng mga broadcaster na Pilipinas. Ang sinasabi ng KBP Broadcast Code, malinaw dapat ang separation ng balita, straight news, ng editorial, na usually ay official stance ng stasyon, at commentary. Malinaw dapat ang delineation ng mga yan. Kung tagapakinig ka o tagapanood, dapat alam mo agad-agad kung ang pinapakinggan mo ay balita o kung ang pinapakinggan mo ay komentaryo ng komentarista, no? And kaming nasa broadcast media, kailangan namin siyang sundin kasi nasa KBP code siya. Kailangan namin i-delineate na as much as possible. Kung bawa ako, news anchor ako, hindi ako pwedeng mag-side comment kapag nag-newscast ako kasi labag sa KBP rules yon. But, so in social media, distinctions at yung ganitong mga patakaran na usually sinusunod ng mga broadcaster, particularly ng KBP member stations, nagiging blurred yan. The lines get blurred in social media. Kaya, if you see media outlets like PGMN doing what they're doing, parang sa mata ng ordinaryong viewer, pwede siyang, ay parang bago ito something new to the ear and to the eye. Pero truth be told, if you apply the KBP broadcast rules with what they're doing, they're not separating commentary from journalism, no, or from news, which sa mga ng mga data, it's a no-no. Kaya talagang hindi tayo magtataka kung merong mga tao, whether they're journalists or people from academia or basically critical media viewers na magsasabing, saglit lang, sure ba kayo journalism ang ginagawa ninyo dyan?
Okay.
Ginagawa ninyo.
Okay. Okay, I want to I feel like this is something that we should be discussing about. How dangerous can it be for the media landscape when outlets like PGMN shift to gotcha journalism now that Mabanta has walked free? Ano yun? Like, makakabalik ba siya into his duties in PGMN? How would it work exactly?
I think very briefly lang. I mean, once you are once you are allowed to post bail, pwede mo namang gawin yung gusto mong gawin, 'di ba? You're technically on provisional liberty until the court says you're actually guilty. Franco Mabanta can choose to go back to doing what he's supposed to do, being with his family, 'di ba? But I do expect him to ramp up the attacks against the current administration, or expect him to release the video, or expect him to just direct PGMN to continue doing what it's supposed to be doing. But the problem is, itutuloy mo man yung gagawin mo, may continuity ka man sa gagawin mo. Ang tanong, yung bang ginagawa mo is driven out of a pursuit of the truth, or are you doing it out of a pursuit to go back or para sa paghihigante, 'di ba? Gusto mo bang maging Princess Punzala na at the end of the day tumatawa matapos sumabog ang isang van? So yun yung doon magkakahalataan kung ano ba talagang motivations nito. And I think moving forward, dapat maging lesson ito sa atin na malaman natin, at dapat ma-institutionalize yung pagtuturo ng political economy of media. Dito natin kailangan malaman sino bang nagpopondo rito. Who is funding PGMN? Kasi for example, ABS, we all know that they're being funded by the Lopezes, 'di ba? The PTV is state-run media. Kumukuha yan ng pondo mula sa kaban ng bayan para pagtingkuran ang sambayan ng Pilipino. It's the same, for example, SMNI. Where are they getting their funding from? From the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, essentially from the detained pastor Apollo Kibuloy. CNN, where are they getting their funding from? Ted Turner, or at the late Ted Turner, God bless his soul. Or at this rate, magkakaroon, I think, ng possible merger between Warner Brothers and Paramount. CBS News, di ba? Who operates CBS News? Who's managing CBS News? Barry Weiss. So doon natin nalalaman ano ba yung nito? Sino ba yung nagpapatakbo nito? Sino yung who's running this, and what type of ethics are they subscribing to? And I think while they can legally operate as a business, 'di ba? Hindi naman namin sinasabing huwag kayo mag-operate. Pero dapat klaro na i-identify nila yung sarili nila, kasi for us professionals, you don't consider it journalism per se. It's essentially opinion farming, rage baiting, trolling, and bigotry, 'di ba? Parang they're the opposite of what free speech is all about.
Tsaka maganda pa yung sinabi mo kanina na kailangang makita kung yung mga susunod na outputs ba ng PGMN, assuming that they would push through, or continue operations, kung ano yung mga ilalabas nila, kasi dito talaga matetesting, na kung ang bawat video na nilalabas nila ay may agenda. Kasi lalo ngayon inaresto yung kanilang inaresto yung CEO, inaresto yung may-ari. Kumbaga, meron kung ikaw ay resulta na ng malikot na isip. Pero alam mo yung meron bang posibleng magkaroon pa talaga ng drive, na maghigante. Hindi ko sinasabi maghigante sila, ha?
Correct.
Pero it could be fuel that they could add to the fire, so to speak. But the question is, will they continue the fire? Kasi remember, ang pinag-ugatan ng extortion case na ito ay may video kami laban sa iyo, Speaker Romualdez. Ilalabas namin to? Depende kung magbabayad ka. So, di ba, may siya, kung ganun ang kung may ganung agenda, parang magtataka ka ngayon, or hindi lang sa magtataka, more like sa mga susunod na mga araw at linggo, babantayan natin ngayon kung anong uri ng content ngayon yung kanilang ilalabas at kung talaga bang magdo-double down sila with their free speech absolutism. Kasi baka maya-maya, eto na naman yung, for example, tandaan niyo a few days ago lang din na may Representative Terry Ridon went, di ba, bumanat siya sa PGMN. Sabi ng PGMN, maghintay ka, Representative Terry Ridon, may ibabanat kami laban sa'yo. May pa-teaser di ba? Parang, kung meron ka solidong pambanat, banatan mo na. Bakit meron ka pang pa-teaser, di ba? So, baka ganyan na naman yung maging formula nila sa mga susunod na araw at sa mga susunod na linggo at buwan. At yun yung babantayan natin. Kasi tingnan natin kung talaga bang paninindigan pa rin nila even after what happened, yung kanilang stand on what they call absolutism of freedom of speech.
Siguro mabilis na lang dahil medyo kinakapos na rin tayo sa oras. I think at the end of the day, challenge to for professional journalists, Sabi nga ng marami sa atin, we don't need to stoop down to someone else's level just to prove that what we're doing is good. Na the future of journalism is bright. Kakagaling lang namin ni Prof. Guien sa pag-oobserba ng mga NSPC entries, di ba? Ang dami pa ring mga campus journalists who are young and dynamic and are fresh and have like new perspectives. Ang pamamahayag ay sumasabay sa panahon. Sumasabay sa pangangailangan ng madla, 'di ba? Hindi ito dapat maging mitya ng galit, ng hate in such a way na yung mga tao will turn on because they're fed a goulash of lies, of rage. Journalism doesn't operate that way. The way journalism operates is how Malu Mangahas describes it in her program, investigative documentaries. Magtanong at magsaliksik. Two things that PGMN, I believe, has clearly failed in doing so and are now using it as a pretense as an attack on the free press.
Just some amazing final words we have here from our present standby people. Guien, Garma, and our very own senior anchor and correspondent Paolo Barcelon. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program, and we hope to have more conversations with you in the future.
Thanks for
Before we go, we'd like to announce something quick. The storyline will now be starting at 4:15 p.m. and we are switching to a bi-weekly format beginning today, with new episodes every second and fourth Saturdays of the month. Don't worry though, the storyline will stay the same. We will continue to dive deep into the stories that shape our nation and the world, and help you understand what this means for you. And that was the storyline this week. I'm Midori Tachibana. Join us every other Saturday for the latest storylines. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.